Morning, ladies. It is Wednesday around 10:15, exactly 10:15. I hope you had a good week last week. I hope you enjoyed your children. And I know summer is upon us. We're warm here in La Quinta. And I hope you enjoy good times with your children. And if you can't be the next few weeks, meet me at 10:30 or in the morning on Wednesday. The last few classes, the last couple classes, and then my testimony. You can tune in anytime because I know you're busy moms. We are on class 39, and we're on teenagers now. And that's a whole nother issue. Those who have teens, you know it. And when a child reaches the age we're talking about, preteen, maybe about 12, 10 to 12, then spanking has already stopped. And you ask, is it too late if children are teens to discipline them effectively and regain control? Not at all. Is there something we can do about it? Yes. It's never too late with God until we die. Then our time on earth, it is too late, or if our child dies. I want you to use the principles that you have had and the ones you're going to learn in this teenage class. Shirley at this point told a story about her teenage daughter Mary, Shirley Price, the one who originated this series, God's Plan for Wife and Mother. She and her daughter Mary were having a hard time, and her daughter Mary stormed out of the house. It was before she stormed out of the house. She was going to go somewhere in her car, but before she went, Shirley had prayed. She said, Lord, how can I reach my daughter? And all of a sudden a thought popped in her head. And she had had a gardenia plant. And the Lord said, cut a gardenia and put it in your daughter's car. Shirley thought, that's a dumb idea. And then she said, all right, Lord, I'm going to take it. This is from you. And she did it. Then the daughters ran down, went out in the car, and after a couple of minutes came running back in and said, Mom, I'm sorry, and hugged Shirley. It was all over. I want to give you a principle. It's Proverbs 15:1. A gentle answer turns away wrath. And this is talking about speaking, but a gentle gesture will turn away wrath as well. It's the principle. And you can reach your teenager. That's why you need God so very, very much. And love is the key. You need to spend time to understand them. And the word generation gap, that's totally made by Satan. It is derived of Satan. It makes our young people feel that we're out of touch, and they kind of look at us like we're old people. We have nothing to input. That is from the devil. And the devil is convincing older people and younger people of that concept. And now even more than ever, you see it. But it's from the devil. We have much to impart to our children. But the key is we have loved them all along. And if you're starting in the process, you ask God to help you to reach that child. When our children were little, we used to give them many rules and guidelines. But as they reach the teenage years, they're going through a different stage. So we want to keep our regulations to the essentials only. As they're getting older and more mature and more wisdom, because we've been raising them and giving them God's word and teaching them, all the things that God's promised are going to come to pass. We want to now start taking a little more back seat and giving them a little bit more freedom to make a decision. And not a big important one that would mess up their life, but you give them little decisions and see how they do with it, or trust them with something a little more. And if they make a mistake, don't blow up and go crazy on them. What you do is you discuss it. Okay, let's find out what was happening. What did you do? If they misspent their money, if they got their, a certain amount of money and they misspent it, then you talk to them about it. These are all lessons in training them to handle life, just like in the Jewish tradition, the boy at 13 kind of goes through a process where he's considered an adult. Well, our children aren't adults in their teenage years, but we're giving them more liberty and see how they handle it, because we're grooming them to someday turn them off so they can fly on their own, and we want them to be responsible. And if you haven't been training and correcting things in your children, if you're turning in late to this, then it's time to dig in and start implementing. Go through all the classes or the ones that apply to where you're at and start implementing the principles and ask God to help you. And Shirley's husband was in the law enforcement, and they got together with other law enforcement couples. And when they were talking, the men were talking about the teens that got in trouble, and the number one problem, when the policeman would say, "Where's your mom?" the teen would say, "Oh, my mom doesn't care." Well, that's not you. You do care, and you are present in your child's life until they are adult and leave home. And we should care. Okay, in making the rules for our teens, we want to have one, they must be obedient. If you've given them a curfew, they need to be home at a curfew during a weeknight or on the weekends. If they know the chores they have to do, they can't shirk them. You have to hold them to what you've asked them to do. Number 2, you don't allow them to sass you back, meaning, talk derogatorily back at you. Because what kind of adults are they going to be? You don't want them. If you haven't taught them when they're young, how do you expect them to be respectful of their elders when they're older? What the teens are learning now, not learning from their parents, is showing up in the classroom and with the police out there. That's a direct result from their home life. Now, I want to equate something to you. Remember the terrible twos? No, I can do it. Well, what characterized that age? What behavior? It wasn't acceptable behavior, but it was age appropriate. Okay, I told you, your teens are like your toddlers. It is not acceptable behavior, some of it, but it's age appropriate. I have to explain. They are leaving childhood, trying to develop and go into adulthood. And along the path, they're going to be emotional, volatile. They'll act like adults one moment and a child the next moment. And you'll say, "It isn't even you." I used to wonder, my youngest son, David, let me put him in a time capsule and take him out when he's 20, 21, 23. But it's age appropriate. They're developing and going from childhood into adulthood. And it's a process. And you are along the way to guide them. And before, you were the most important person in their life. Now it's their peer group. And if you're having difficulty, I would so encourage you to go to Amazon or go to your Barnes & Noble and get James Dobson's Love Must Be Tough. It will help you immensely. We have to especially keep boundaries, our boundaries, not giving in to them because they're angry or all their friends are doing it. And I want to tell you something. My mother was so good to do this for me when I was about 13, 14. My best girlfriend, we were best girlfriends. We had our hairstyle the same, wore the same bow in our hair. And her mother let her date a junior college young man. And it was the mother vicariously living through her daughter because her daughter was pretty. And my best girlfriend told me some of the things that her boyfriend was doing and she was engaging in sexually. And I had never heard of such things. And I thought, "Oh, thank you, Mom, you didn't let me do this." And I think I moped around for 3 weeks. And my mother told me later, "I almost gave in to you. And then, boop, one day you snapped out of it." Let that be a lesson, mothers. Don't give in to the fear. Now, number 3, time limits. What time do you expect them home? You want to be clear and tell them, on a weeknight, this is your curfew time. If you let them go out on the weekend with a friend, you find out where. You ask them, "Okay, where are you going?" And then you tell them what time. And during the weekend, it was like 11 or 12. And 5 or 10 minutes after curfew, they were disobedient. So you have to have consequences. Okay. Now, remember, the key ingredient for you, ladies, is love. Even when you're disciplining that teenager, and that teenager, sometimes I had to tell my youngest son, David, go in the room, I'll talk to you later, because he was mouthy. And I used to be the same way. I think he has the same I know he has the same temperament as I do, but he has anger that he hasn't dealt with about his biological father, and that's why he comes out in this explosive anger. But I used to have to tell him, go in the room. And the way I would reach him is I would write him like a 1-page letter and explain things to him. And he'd come out and he'd say, Mom, I'm sorry. You have God on your side, ladies. So don't forget that. Your key is follow God. Be intimate and close with God. That boy kept me on my knees till I almost had calluses on my knees. And you want to grow and to mature a healthy, responsible young adult. And it will take your time, and there will be one child that will test you to your limits. Didn't your toddler, when you said, don't put your hand there, don't you do it, and they did it and you had to slap their hand? They had to know the teens are testing the boundaries as well. So just remember that this week, no matter what you are encountering with your teen, that they love you, but they're trying to navigate this road called life, changing from a child into an adulthood. And they'll yell, I'm an adult now. And yet then maybe the next day they need you to comfort them, make hot soup if they're sick. So they vacillate between childlikeness and trying to be an adult. So just go to God. Ask God, how do I handle this, Lord? He will show you. He showed me many times. I can't even tell you how many times. That's why I know it for you. So this week I will be praying and asking God to help you with that teen. And if you're not there yet, this is an encouragement, moms. While they're still young, teach them, train them, get God's word into them. Remember, I love you. I will meet you next Wednesday. Have a wonderful week and enjoy your teenagers and your littler children. Bye-bye.